Hi, my name is Phil Hobden, and I'm joined by Lynne, Darcey, Quigley, and we represent a company called Knowit. And today we're going to be hosting a breakout session around how technology is solving the late payment pandemic. Before we get going, I'm sure, Lynne, you could do a very quick introduction on Knowit, who we are and what we do, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about what's impacting late payments, what the situation is in the UK, and then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A to talk through your experience and that piece around technology and how technology can really make a huge difference when businesses are trying to get paid, and I guess the challenges around that as well. So Lynne, do you want to just talk a little bit about Knowit and your journey that got us to where we are today?
Hi, I'm Lynne Darcey Quigley. I'm the CEO and founder of Knowit. We are all about cash collection, debt recovery, litigation, and knowing your customer. The journey basically started because we wanted to give a product that the SME could access and could use flawlessly and seamlessly, and not spend loads of time and cash on software when really all they needed to do was get their invoices paid. So the journey really started for us a few years ago. We've launched the product, very successful, but came off the back of a 30 years commercial debt recovery journey for me in the commercial space internationally. So yeah, we're happy to talk about everything that gets us paid.
Absolutely, and any questions that you do have, either live in the room or if you're watching streaming, we'd definitely be happy to take those questions, because Lynne's got a wealth of experience around getting businesses paid and helping businesses adapt and introduce this technology. So do utilise Lynne's expertise, I should say. Expert. I'm not quite sure what English that was. So look, let me just talk to you a little bit about late payments and how they're impacting SME growth in the UK. On average, £22,000 is owed to an SME in the UK. Now, I don't know about you, but if someone owed me £22,000, that would not be a comfortable position to be in. And that's how it is for businesses. We know that even with the latest figures that we are potentially heading back to growth as an economy, but we are in a technical recession at the moment. And one of the things that happens in a technical recession is people extend payment terms. They push out and really push the boundaries on paying suppliers, and that has an impact. And obviously the same is happening to them as well, and often that's why people are doing it. In fact, according to the government, gov.uk, improving late payment culture in the UK will support smaller businesses and could actually boost the economy by £2.5 billion. So the impact of businesses getting paid on time is huge, both to the business and everyone there, but also to the economy as a whole. And you definitely shouldn't kind of underpay how important that piece is. So a few statistics, and I'll give you a few statistics about Knowit, and then I'll open the floor, and Lynne, I'll ask you a few questions about this whole late payment piece. But 52% of SME businesses suffer from a late payment every year. That's over half of businesses in the UK suffer from a late payment every year. That's pretty shocking, right?
Yeah, it's about 3 million.
But really, about 3 million. Yeah. Actually, when you put it into numbers of businesses, that's actually even worse. Yeah. 3 million businesses get paid late each year. Imagine if you had like half of your friends didn't pay you for stuff each year. That'd be you wouldn't have friends anymore. And actually, the flip side to this is there's been a 73% increase in creditors' voluntary liquidation since the pandemic. And in fact, if you look at recent statistics, that's getting worse. Yeah. Liquidation. I think we've had the highest amount of business liquidation since pre-pandemic now. So some of those businesses that were supported through the pandemic clearly haven't survived out of it. But actually the trend, even if you look beyond that, is not great. So this whole piece about getting paid, about automating your credit management, about making sure that you get paid for the work you do is really impactful. And I'm going to be honest, whilst a lot of the talk in SME and businesses is around technology and AI and all this amazing stuff, and all that is important,
we still need to ask for money.
You still need to get paid, right? Because if you don't get paid, then all that great stuff you're doing around AI and all the other bits and pieces that you do becomes irrelevant pretty quick. So Just a little bit about Know It. Lynne was quite modest at the beginning when you were talking about Know It. I'll give you the rest of the story. So,
okay.
Kind of launched the market in 2022 through our Collect It part of our platform, and I'll talk very quickly about how we work. We've helped recover over £26 million worth of commercial unpaid invoices in 2023, which is pretty big. That's a lot of money that's gone back into businesses and back into the economy. And since launch, Know It has had over 24 award nominations, which is none too shabby. But Know It is really, and this isn't going to be a sales pitch, by the way. We are genuinely going to talk about the industry, but just to tell you a little bit how Know It works, because it does feed into that transformation piece, is that there are three core elements to Know It, which is kind of Chase It, which is, I would suggest, the core part about automating your accounts receivable, accounts payable, getting paid faster, super important. Check It, so understanding the businesses you deal with. And we'll talk a little bit about that, because I think it's the one part of the process that businesses don't actually talk about very much. And then finally, when you've done that and you've chased the debt, what do you do next? So Collect It is about getting paid, and that's where your history is, where your background is. Yeah. So that's kind of how Know It works. So look, I'm going to put this up just while we talk and talk to you a little bit about that. So I guess the first question, Lynne, what are the current challenges businesses are facing due to late payments? We've talked about some of them now, but actually what's the actual impact to a business?
I think it's just the natural, can we pay our wages? Can we keep the business going? It's the basic stuff. If a business doesn't get paid, it fails to operate. It can't invest in the future. It can't hire new staff. It can't pay its way. It's really, really critical to be paid. It affects so much. It affects the business owner's time, because they're spending time on trying to get paid when they actually should be trying to generate sales. It's super counterintuitive. Working in the debt is a complete distraction. And not getting paid is the biggest distraction a business can ever have. And it leads you to absolute failure. You might have a really busy order book, you might have really good client success, and you are fielding really good business, but if you don't get paid, it doesn't matter.
And in fact, there's two elements to that, and I think you touch on them both really well. First is the mental health side, and if you look at the statistics around mental health, businesses and late payments, it's actually quite shocking. Yeah. Like, business owners genuinely are having real mental health challenges driven by this cash flow piece. Yeah. And I think the second point you raised, which is about having a great order book, but businesses still being able to fail, is really interesting. Because I always remember there's the story many years ago. We all know the story of Woolworths and when Woolworths went bust, but actually Woolworths, it had this weird knock-on effect. There was a company called Zavvi, which was, they bought Virgin Megastores, so they had like bricks and mortar shops everywhere. But part of Woolworths was a distribution business called Entertainment and Video, and they supplied Zavvi with all of their stock. So when Woolworths went down, entertainment went down, so they then couldn't supply.
It's the credit cycle.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah, and it took down another load of businesses. So it's amazing how businesses quite often look to sales and look to generating new revenue as a way to balance the books, but then can have, and we see it, know it.
You need to focus on the back end of your business. And it's quite hard for an operational and sales organisation who drive for new leads, new business, new clients, new customers and new revenue, when they actually should focus, or there should be some amount of focus on the back end of their business. When are we getting paid? How are we getting paid? Because they're paying suppliers. All suppliers might be on 30 to 45 days, and you might be out at day 65 getting paid. So not only are you sustaining your own cash flow, you're actually trying to pay all your suppliers 45 days when you've not even had your funds. It's really, really, the effect of not being paid, it's ridiculous. It can really, really destroy any function good business, never mind a business that's just limping along. So there is late payers and there's bad debtors. Let's not get that. There is people who will just continually pay late because it keeps a little bit cash in the bank, but then there's people who deliberately go out and have no intentions of ever paying. And that's where the SME gets caught out by not checking their customer first, the KYC. They don't understand who their customer is.
Well, I remember
really
having
important.
I remember having a conversation with you in the office a while back, and you were talking about like a company that came in and they were someone looking to buy, was it looking to buy flooring? And
yeah, well, you can buy flooring in any street corner, so a company coming from England to Scotland or vice versa to get the same product you can service anywhere else is a red flag. But clients won't see that. They just see it as an order and a sale, and it's not until the goods are shipped and they go and ask for the invoice, sometimes 35, 40, 50 days later, they realise their product's not there. And that's why we decided to do the whole check it piece, which is often overlooked because the truth lies in the check. And some businesses might not want to see the truth, but the alternative to that is, credit insure it or, you do a prepayment. It doesn't mean that you're cannibalising your sale. It just means that you're being clever about it. And that's the way that businesses need to start thinking.
Yeah.
If you use technology, you can get a nice story of how your creditor should unfold. So you can do the check it piece. You can see who they are. If you want to take the risk, you can credit insure it. If you don't want to take the risk, you can ask for prepayment. If they're desperate enough for your product, it's game on. If they're not desperate enough, they didn't ever want to pay you. There's telltale signs, and it's okay for me saying it because I've seen those signs for 30 years, so I get it. I understand that, and I know business owners may necessarily get caught out from that, but using software, you've got a better chance of not being caught out. And making a really good decision based on data, which I think the SME has a real lack of. That data condensed in the one area, hence why the platform is all in the one place, where you've got a continuity of data and you can actually read it and you get a proper outcome. That's priceless.
Yeah, I think I've been guilty of this in the past, that you focus so much on the sale.
Yeah.
And
quite rightly so.
And you ring a bell in the office. Sales businesses, they go and ring the bell when they get the sale.
And that's okay. That's brilliant. You need a sales organisation, but you need to be paid.
Yeah.
And I don't think one has to be one or the other. It has to be both. And it sometimes shouldn't overspill into each other, because sometimes it can be quite throat in a credit team and in a credit department asking for money, whereas sales are a bit happy clappy and we're all celebrating and we want the commission and we want the deal. And I completely get that. That's the lifeblood of a company. They do need new business, new sales, new leads, and lots of commission coming in. I get that, but it needs to be sensible, and technology will help with that.
Maybe the credit control department should have a bell as well. So every time they bring in a debt.
They do where I exist, but that's me. But it's like, if you use the technology, it also takes, and the big piece that I need to bang on about is, there is business owners and SMEs sometimes are really close to the invoice being outstanding and close to the data and all the reasons why, and the deal wasn't supposed to be like that, and it comes with its own situation. I think using technology allows you to actually put a bit of space between your feelings and the creditor and the debtor.
There is that whole emotional piece, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you check out, it's a process. You press the button, you do your check, you send your letters, you do your recovery. And it should be nice and simple, and it should allow you to come away from the situation and go and start selling more and getting new clients and checking them all and doing all the nice stuff, and allowing the technology to take you through that journey. It's really, really important.
It's weird, isn't it? We don't get personal when we're delivering the invoice. So we'll send the invoice on email and we'll send that over. But then, we then feel like we have to get personal and more intimate around the chasing of the debt.
It's just human behaviour. You'll never change it, and that's why technology is so good, because it takes the human behaviour away from that. And the reality is that when you're asking for invoices to be paid, they're more or likely not even going to the person who you done the business with anyway.
No.
They're maybe going into a department or to a bookkeeper or to an accountant or an accounts office or a credit control team that's completely isolated from the person that you just done the sale with. So there is no correlation. It's just in your mind. That's your human behaviour. And there's loads of reasons for not asking for payment. Am I going to get the next contract? Will I get the next deal? Will they go somewhere else? Will they think I've got no money? And ego kicks in. Business owners, huge ego kicks in, there. Whereas use technology, the ego's not there. It's a process. You've went through the process. You've asked for your money. You should get paid. You've delivered a good product or a good service. That is the outcome that you should want, and using technology really fulfills that need to get paid but not have the emotional attachment to it.
So thinking about kind of industries, I know, we used the stat earlier, 52% of businesses will get paid late each year. Are there any specific industries that if you work in that actually you should be, not maybe have more red flags, but just be aware that it is more, there are more tendencies for late payments in that industry?
Yeah, I think we all know constructions obviously comes with its throats. It's a fast-paced industry. It's, there's lots of people in the space. There's lots of suppliers and lots of providers, and it can be difficult. The margins are really low. The profit margins in construction can be really low. They're getting contracts so they can make sure their team are out working, and necessarily there's no money in that product at the time. So construction, for us, and we've got lots and lots of construction clients, and the whole check it piece, I think construction are more invested in checking their customers, which is ironic because they have the biggest losses, so they need to be careful. So I'm not saying everybody's doing it, but I would say they're more tending to go into the check it piece and understand it more and get the value from it. Construction is always a win for me, whereas, and even like accountants and solicitors and all very, very lax about asking for payment for their fee notes, which is really bizarre to me. You need to ask for payment. If you've done a really good job and the service has been great, let's go and get payment. You're not going to lose a customer. You've given them a great service, you just move on. Again, technology allows you just to be detached from that. It's just a fee note. We provided a service, it's just a fee note, so those are, manufacturing is difficult as well, especially if it's in the bespoke side, because you're giving a product for one particular thing, and if it doesn't fit, and everything is fraught with that, recruitment, construction, engineering, wholesale of food and drink, export and import. It's difficult too, your products leaving the country, and it's, whether you've got export insurance on it or not, or whether the export insurance is too expensive and you've decided not to do it, and you still ship. There's a lot of things at play, certainly in the UK, with the way that most of our stuff in the UK comes in via water, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
Like 90% of our stuff that we do in the UK is in that way, and then we're shipping out the same. So yeah, it's just, but there's probably a top 5: construction, engineering, food and drink, wholesale, recruitment, technology,
Anything with a lot of invoices going out.
I think so. And high value invoices as well. They come with their difficulties, especially if they're, they've made an order and the value of the contract's exceeded, and there's add-ons and there's variations to the contract, and there's lots of things that can cause late payment. It's sometimes just not an invoice. There's lots of things at play, and I think again with the technology you can definitely make that a little bit less painful, should we say.
We've talked about late payments and we've talked about technology, and we'll definitely come back to that, being that it is the topic of the breakout. Yeah. But something I want to kind of understand a little bit more is the mentality behind late payments. So you mentioned it earlier, sometimes just to extend that runway of cash within the business. But what are some of the common reasons that businesses don't pay? So when someone isn't paying you, is it always a red flag that business is in trouble, no, or is there stuff behind it?
No, there's always stuff behind it. Probably the biggest thing for me is they're not being paid. It's like the credit cycle. That's why they call it that, because you're not being paid because someone else hasn't paid them, and someone else hasn't paid them, and it's just that cycle that keeps going round and round. And it's very, very hard to break that when you're in that loop and you're continuously providing service and product, and you need to be paid. I would say that's probably the biggest reason, is that they're not getting paid. Then there's other factors like tax year. Nobody's giving any money in January, are they? They're going to try and keep tax money for the directors, and then there's the corp tax and maybe the VAT quarters coming up. There's little elements of importance in a business that the financial people or the business owner will go, let's just leave it now, let's keep some cash in the bank or whatever. Or maybe they're trying to put a fund together, maybe trying to get invoice finance and stuff changed over, or they're moving provider, or they're trying to up their limits. Maybe their order books increase, which is fantastic, but they don't have that gap in the middle, so they're maybe trying to fund. There's loads of reasons, but I think typically, having done this for 30 odd years now, is that they are not getting paid. And believe it or not, over the years, a lot of my clients were debtors, and then they became clients, because they had the same issue. I can't pay because X isn't paying me. And that is the cycle. That's the credit cycle.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing, isn't it? And I think one of the things that's coming from this for me is around communication and talking to people and understanding their challenges. So, you know, when businesses can't pay, we automate the process, and that's the right thing to do, and we introduce technology.
Yeah.
Is there an argument to say that the technology is important, but we've got to still keep an element of that human factor?
Yeah, you have to ask for payment. And yeah, the platform will send a letter and technology will ask for payment, but the human doesn't disappear from that. You know, you need to be able to have that conversation. Unfortunately, you know, debtors and creditors often don't have any comms, and that's why, you know, it ends up in a bit of a mess sometimes, because, you know, there's, as I said to you, there's ego, there's embarrassment, I might not get the next deal, you know, and they honestly don't come to the table and say, look, I've got a bit of cash flow, can you give me some room? Then the business has got a decision to make. Can they give them some room, or do they want to sue them? And do they want to cannibalise the next sale? And then, a business would probably make a really good decision if there was a clear intent. You know, someone came to the table, but that doesn't happen. And I've witnessed it over the years. It just doesn't. You know, it's head in the sand situation. All size of businesses, not just the SME. You know, all size of businesses avoid. And the pandemic has given them a massive place to hide. You know, because a lot are working from home, and, you know, the comms are not on. It's just an answering service. The finance team works at home now. You know, it's whereas before everything was really front and centre. You could get contact and get comms. Those things are more difficult, and I hope it changes. You know, I hope people get back to the office, departments get back to the office, and people can actually have a conversation about, you owe me money and you have to pay.
Well, I think that's a really interesting point, because if you think about how things were in 2019, you could phone a business, you could speak to their credit department, you could speak to a human being.
Yeah, within reason. You could.
Within reason, depending on the size of the business.
If they weren't avoiding you.
If they weren't avoiding
but
you.
Yeah, if
always phone from an unknown number, right? That always helps.
There's little tricks like that. But, you know, before the pandemic, late payment was late payment.
Yeah.
And you could see it. It was honest late payment. You could see it in the first instance. I think now there's so many ways to hide from late payment.
Yeah.
You know, we're not in the office. We've got a work from home policy, and, you know, there's loads of hiding just now, and we witness it daily.
And so that's probably another reason why kind of implementing technology around late payments and around getting paid is important, because whilst you can avoid a phone call, it's much harder to avoid the email.
The letters coming and the SMSs and asking for money all the time. Yeah, and you've been the first person that asks all the time. You know, because if someone else, I assume if they're not paying you, the likelihood is, you know, it's those who shout the loudest, and they're not really paying anybody for whatever reason. You know, that technology piece where it's not relentless, because there's obviously comes to a stage where, you know, you don't want to behave like that. But that continuous asking for payment all the time is really, really priceless, and you don't get that unless you use technology.
Yeah.
Having ran a credit team and ran a credit department and still doing that today, it doesn't matter how many people you have to phone in a day, things happen and you don't get back to them.
Yeah.
Fact, you know, whereas technology doesn't have that. They don't need to bother about somebody coming in and saying, can you deal with that today, or can you do something different? Because remember, in an SME, you don't just wear a hat asking for money every day. You wear lots of hats. You know, that's the reality.
Yeah, no, very true.
You're not sitting there with a ledger for 7 hours and phoning every single. You're not doing that. Whereas technology will give you that.
The most SMEs, let's be honest, most SME business owners, and I'm sure that's current for people watching online and that are in the room here, didn't start their business to
phone people and ask
for money. No, they started the business because they had a great idea. They were passionate about something.
Absolutely.
They had a vision of a product or service they wanted to deliver.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't think.
Well, they don't want to be a credit controller. I get that, and they don't want to continue asking for money. And again, that's why technology just has that little space to play and still be there and working.
Obviously, this is an interactive breakout, so we'll come to the room and ask some questions. I think we've got some questions that have come in online as well. But I want to ask about this, because for me, I've been working with accountants for a decade now, helping them implement technology and be the advisors to the SME businesses. I guess my question to you is this something that should only be done in-house, or is this something that actually maybe you do use that advice source, like an accountant or someone like that, to assist you in that process? because obviously the thought process would be they're more financially astute, I guess would be financially aware might be the better way of saying it. So actually, should you be engaging with a third party in your business and utilizing someone like an accountant to support you in this, to give you, again, another degree of separation or another pair of eyes on that business?
Yeah, I think yes. If you have that relationship with your accountant and your accountant is invested in getting you paid, because obviously they're the first people that see the write-offs and liquidations in your bad ledger when they're doing your accounts. They see your losses. Yeah, so absolutely, if you have that relationship with your accountant and you feel the accountant can give you that service, but it's almost a non-touch, as long as the accountants believe in it, and they should be using it for themselves as well. It's not just an outsourcing piece, accountants need to transfer money too, they need to be paid too, so it's one fits all. Yeah. Anybody who has a service and an invoice outstanding, can use the product and use technology. But yes, because a lot of people have a really good relationship with their accountant, and they will ask an accountant, about money, because they always speak about money. However, the pain is felt at the SME. The accountant doesn't feel your pain. I know they say they do, right? And I get that. But at the end of the day, you're the person that can't pay your VAT, can't pay your tax, can't pay your staff, can't pay the rent. You're the person that's hurting.
Yeah.
But accountants could be that, that nice barrier in between. Say, look, that software is there for you to use it, and it will help you in end results. And then once you plug in and you start seeing technology work for you, it's a no-brainer. You see it in the bank. That's how technology should work. Yeah. You should see instant, and I mean instant. The minute you connect your ledger or you do anything and you send letters and comms, you should have an instant effect, and it should be a positive one on your bank account. Yeah,
it's interesting. I remember recently we signed up, ironically, an event organizer to our platform, and
he said it was like Christmas.
He did. He said it was like Christmas because literally he turned the platform on, and the next day money started to come in.
Absolutely, but that's what it should do. It's not rocket science. You ask for payment, you should be paid. There's an 80-20 rule that I feel is really, really prevalent in everything that we do. Probably 80% of your ledger's relatively good to go, and they may just mess about and be a bit late, but nothing really to worry about, I don't think. Yeah. But that 20%, you need to dig in. You need to make sure you're continuously asking for payment all the time. You're in a nice process, and if you don't ask, they don't pay, and that's the worst scenario to be in. Yeah. If you don't ask, you'll not get paid.
I think there's another element to this as well. We're talking about kind of technology to help the late payment. I think that's really important. I think you've got to look at your whole technology stack as well, right? So yes, you've got a platform like Know It that sits there to help support it. But then if you're running a niche or old style accounts software, or God forbid you're even doing your accounts on an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. So I think it needs to start earlier. I think not only should you consider software to automate this part, but actually make sure your tech stack is automated. So you should be automating receipt capture and invoicing. So that bit is crucial at the beginning, because then you know what's coming in. You should be automating and having one of the cloud accounting softwares in the middle, because that's going to give you a lot of detail knowledge, the bank feeds, everything else that's coming in, so you can actually see a more real-time look in your business. The challenge with using some technology as robust and long-term as you may have been using it for, it's
completely ineffective.
Yeah, it is. It's like looking at a dashboard that's only refreshed once every 6 months. Yeah, it doesn't actually tell you anything.
Technology's moved on massively, but asking for payment is still the same. It's been the same for 30 odd years I've been doing it. It hasn't changed. It's just the technology's slicker, and you don't actually have to dedicate as much time to it, anymore.
And time is money, right?
Time is absolutely money, So technology, if anybody came to you in a business as a business owner and says, I can save you money, like, okay, I can save you time. Right, I'm sold. I wouldn't even need to ask what that looked like. You would just get the technology to work for you. But it's right, you do need to have it all over your business, because it's a business decision. But from a business perspective, maybe people, online are watching and in the room, when a business wants to do something, the first thing they do is go to the ledger and go, how much money am I doing?
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's to acquire vans or to acquire scaffolding or poles or do a load of printing or whatever it is, buy new PCs, get new cars, whatever it is, funding it is obviously one option, right? But they do go to the ledger and go, okay, I'm due 800,000 in, that's sitting in my 60 and my 90 days. You go, right, effectively that should really come in within half of it should already be sitting in your bank.
Yeah.
And the reality is it isn't. So technology massively helps in that, getting that continuity of asking for payment, and it also allows businesses to thrive because they're getting the money in quick and they can decide how they go forward with their business and make really good solid business decisions, make more money, hire more people, and then we start to thrive. That's what the UK economy needs, is the thriving piece, but it's only the cash in the ledger that allows you to do that, out with funding and investment, and that's a whole other piece. But you should be getting your own money and not having to pay for it.
Well, look, let's be honest, the thing that stops growth is cash flow. And
always.
And it's always cash flow. And whether that cash flow is being restricted by the economy or economic events, or it's just being restricted by the fact that businesses are just
behaviour.
Yeah, the behaviours are not there. That's what we need to change as a business. So probably anyone watching here, it might sound silly, but actually, for me, it's that good behaviour that pays forward. If you literally pays forward in this case, but if you start to tighten up on your own payment terms and make sure you're paying people quicker,
absolutely,
then actually that will come back to you and you'll start getting paid quicker, and then everyone gets lifted up.
There's an elevation of the credit cycle. The debtor days start reducing, and that's what everybody wants to see. If you're out at 75, can the software bring me into 57? Absolutely. Put your schedules in, make sure you're diligent and you're doing that one-time setup. It's just saving time and bringing those debtor days in. And when you bring the debtor days in, you naturally get cash flow.
Yeah.
And you see it immediately in the bank. That's the piece.
Well, that's what we do. That's what everyone ultimately is doing the business for.
No, I get that, but
it's to get paid. But
you lose your way for that as well, because people necessarily, if you don't have that skill set, the ledger is the deepest, darkest hole in your life, and it's not really where you want to spend your time. And I completely get that. However, let the technology spend its time there.
Yeah.
Just plug and play and let technology do all the stuff that you don't want to do, and you go and do, if it's marketing you like, or if it's sales meetings you like, or if it's lead generation, what is it that makes your business fantastic?
Yeah.
You go do that and do more of it and do lots of it, but just make sure you do it at the right price and the right cost with the right people, and then you ask them for payment. It's it shouldn't be difficult.
I think the automate. I was on a panel earlier on today around the automation of businesses and that journey, and I think I can't express it enough that look at your tech stack and review it regularly. Look at everything from the unsexy parts of your business, so like your accounting software, through to your accounts payable, the stuff that is going to get you paid but might not be as sexy as putting an AI chatbot on or an AI product, right? Just look at all of that and make sure that you're constantly evolving that. So look, we've got about 12 minutes left. I'm going to see if there's any questions from anyone in the room. Anyone here got a question? If not, I know we've got a couple of online questions. So I think we're going to run a microphone over to you in our best Challenge Annika style.
Hi, my name's Tim from Hobden, and I spoke a little bit yesterday about credit insurance. I'm not going to bore you with insurance again, but I think there was someone, I can't remember who it was, made the point yesterday about everyone's a salesperson, and they were saying how one of their accountants was their best salesperson. So wouldn't you also say that your salespeople could be your best debt collectors as well, where everyone becomes part of the process?
Yeah, sometimes, but I think it depends on your industry actually. I think sometimes they get in the road, your salespeople, and you actually have a process. They've done their job, it's not their skill set, and they make it worse. And then there's people who are really good, at just going, this is the facts. I think it really depends on your business and how close you are to the deal. Yeah. Because if it's a remote sale, it's done over a phone. There is no, but if they're out on the tools, and it's they're speaking to the QS, and there's loads of different scenarios. So I would say yes to some and no to others. Sometimes they just get in the road when there needs to be a job done. You need to pay, and it doesn't really matter about what's going on in the past. And we all need salespeople.
Yeah, we do, and it's funny.
They make it happen, and without them, we wouldn't have the billing opportunity to ask for payment at the back end. So, we just living harmoniously together, which is brilliant. But you often hear in a credit team, it's the salespeople are going, don't ask for money, we need to, and then vice versa. They go, and the salespeople, they sold to him and they shouldn't have. There's always a conflict. They think it's sales prevention and vice versa. But I think if you manage that piece, and I think technology does help with that too.
Yeah, if you get a pack that and you go in there knowing you need to discuss payment terms early. So we now treat credit as another insurance policy. So if I insured you and I had 6 policies, we would add how you're going to pay to that as a conversation piece to have at the start. Because if it is credit you want, that could be more challenging than actually placing insurance policies themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all right insuring it and getting the cover, right?
Yeah.
But the insurer or us still have to be paid.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's still an ask. So all of these things are just precaution, aren't they? Getting it insured or funding it, whatever it is you do. But at the end of it, the funder or the insurer still needs to get it paid. You still can't not pay it unless it's administration or liquidation, which I get. But generally, it's not that. It's just late payment. And asking for payment.
I think it's interesting. I think part of this, and to your point, comes down to understanding your customer as well. How much headroom do they have on their credit? What are we giving them, or what are they asking for against what they already have? And actually, if they want more, brilliant. But the leverage to that is, if you want more, then you actually have to kind of pay some of that bill off that you're there. So I agree. I think sales actually can be part of that process. And I love that. I love that analogy that the accounts person can be one of your best salespeople as well, because ultimately, and we've always said this, and I've always said this, selling is easy. Right? I don't want to make it sound, but selling is actually easy. There's always, if you've got the right market fit, there's always someone out there that will buy your product, right? You can sell all day long. There's 6 million businesses, SMEs in the UK, X amount of one-man bands and things like that. Selling is easy. Getting paid is hard. So if you've got everyone working towards that same goal, I think actually that will be a lovely business to be in.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just going to add one piece to sort of add to your technology sort of pitch, as it were. I had to engage 2 tradespeople recently, okay? So I had to engage an electrician and I had to engage a general builder to repair my fence. The electrician used technology, so he'll quote it via a technology platform, sends it to me, I click accept, that creates a contract between us both, and it's properly payment terms, does the work, send me invoice, pay now button, he gets paid because it sits in my inbox.
Yeah. Were you impressed by that?
Yeah, it was really good. It's much, much easier.
Absolutely.
Whereas the other one is more traditional. I'm still chasing to pay him.
Yeah.
I know. I had that not that long ago. Exactly the same thing. I sent the guy 3. He was a plumber actually, and I sent him 3 messages to say, "Can you send me your bank details so I can pay you?" Yeah. And I'm like, "Hold on, this feels wrong. Yeah. I'm chasing a plumber to pay him, not the other way round." It's because I'm that kind of person that the work's done.
Technology space, yeah.
If you can do it on technology, done. If not, I want to pay you as soon as possible because that's my cash flow, so I know what I've got in and out. But having to chase a tradesman to pay them feels the most counterintuitive thing on the planet.
Could you imagine how it is for businesses on such a bigger scale?
Oh, exactly.
If they don't have technology.
But
and that's the thing, because a credit controller is literally going in to their account software and printing off the biggest ledger, and order value's got a lot to do with that. So what if you're car parts and you've got nuts and bolts and they're £3 a transaction, right? Yeah. And you need to phone